I was really happy with our first three quarters. And look, Richmond, it was really, we're explosive, backed ourselves in a little bit. Players took control of the game, and as I said, I think, once their Fab Five, so to speak, grabbed hold of it, it was really, really hard to stop. But there were some things in the game that we really took out that we really liked today. There's no doubt about that. But in fairness, we don't expect to give up 7 goals in the last quarter for them to, jump over the top of us. So that was really disappointing.
It's over, they're saying. It's over. Damien Hardwick there, coach of the Tigers, 4 in a row. Losses, not wins. Normally we say the wins for the Tigers. Losses after their capitulation in the last quarter at the MCG yesterday. The Magpies too good, running out 16-point winners. Certainly one of the stories of the round so far. And to help us through that and a whole lot more as a triple premiership player with the Cats, Brownlow medalist, Norm Smith medalist. Boy, God, he's handsome. Jim Bartell, welcome again.
Morning, gentlemen. Welcome back. How's the day spa?
Day spa.
Have a look at the man.
Have a look at me.
No day spa for me.
Beautiful.
No day spa.
Why didn't I read about this from Mitch Cleary on the AFL website? He's the residential day spa reporter. I like Mitch. I'm very, very tongue-in-cheek there because he was the breaking news of the Spargate last year.
Well, we missed a bit of news. Speaking of breaking news, we missed a bit of news last week. Steve Hocking steps down, Alistair Clarkson takes off, and all of a sudden we're on holiday, Whitey. Yeah. You would have been absolutely raging inside.
Yeah,
you missed all that.
I must confess I was. Oh, could you have done it next week?
Hey, can I ask a question there? While the final moments of this game's going on, and there'll be a lot of nervous Italian supporters and English supporters, and obviously I heard you making mention of Ash Barty and your nerves watching Ash Barty.
Yep.
Are you gentlemen superstitious watchers of sport?
Yeah.
So, if I sit in this chair this way, a wicket won't fall, or if I, half I know you still have a blankie. If you hold your blankie on the couch, Ash Barty will win. Are you a superstitious sports watcher? Because I still know plenty of full-grown men that are very superstitious the way they watch their sporting teams.
I'm 100% superstitious. Yeah. And I think cricket has a lot to do with this.
Yeah, cricket does.
Cricket's one of those sports where you're not allowed to do anything outside the realms if something's happening. Certainly something's good. You're not allowed to do anything, just in case it goes bad.
Which you did in the World Cup with Alex Carey. And
what do you mean?
You go check your tweets when you said he was going really well, and then 2 balls later he gets bowled.
That's because he's a loser. No, that's he's being silly. No, that was disappointing.
Well, that's exactly what we're talking about.
Well, that's right. I've stopped tweeting during action when I really care.
Good idea.
When I really care.
Good idea.
It was a bit like Mark Stevens. He did the same thing was it Ash Barty?
I think it was.
In some big tournament or some big match she was playing. She was in full control, and all of a sudden she was all over and he lost.
Isn't it?
And that's what he was saying.
Isn't it funny that you think the way probably you sit in your house at Casa de la Hufford actually affects the result of a match happening overseas?
Totally stupid.
Like people, hey, when I wasn't watching the Bombers, they got up by 5 goals. But when I turned on, look what happened.
Well, racing's another one.
Yeah.
You don't want to be messing with superstitions in racing. The early crow, all that sort of stuff. You can't be doing that. Get in the queue. It doesn't actually affect the race. The horse can't hear you.
We're full-grown adults, and we think this actually has an impact.
No, we are stupid. Grand scheme of things, Jim. Yeah. Fair point. Were you a superstitious footballer?
No, not at all. Does that make you superstitious by not having any superstitions, deliberately not?
Well, if you're deliberately not superstitioning, you probably are superstitious.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I had one thing I just was very funny about football. I never ran up or down a football race. But that was more out of the local footy club.
You just walked.
So you just walked out on the ground. You probably get assessed with your attitude nowadays. Oh, look at him, not ready for the game, not running out the race like this. But yeah, people do that. They analyse everything to the nth degree. But that was more from the local footy club that I grew up with at Bell Park. The race was so steep, and I watched far too many idiots go charging down the race with their footy stops on the concrete, come a cropper at the bottom. So it just carried over. I was the last one in and out of the rooms half.
Oh, great courage. It worked pretty well, Jim.
Yeah,
worked pretty well. Always be careful down that race too. You're going to be slipping with those slippery stops.
Yes.
Back in the old days. Any update, Rama, from your age before we get
110th minute? So still 1-1.
Isn't this setting up for a spectacular
penalty
failure for England? This is like the ball going to be an own goal through the.
Oh, don't say that, Jim. Superstitious, Jim.
Italy almost scored from a goalkeeper error earlier, but it's. I don't know. They did it with the cricket. Maybe they will do it with the football.
Football.
We'll see. The second half of extra time, 1-1 in regulation between Italy and England Euro 2020 final. Jim,
Yes.
you heard Damien Hardwick there.
Yes.
I know you were at Marvel Stadium for the Bulldogs and at Sydney clash, which we certainly want to talk about.
Yeah.
Are you riding the death knell? Are you signing the warrant for the Tigers?
I think all of us media types, so there's been some in circles, I think have confused, the argument with dynasty and season. And era and season.
Yes.
And this has been my frustration is, I think it's going to be very difficult for him to win the premiership this year, but I still count potentially 4 premierships in 5 years as an era, don't you?
Well, 4 in 5 is certainly.
It's a massive era.
Yeah, well, 3 in a row is proved to be a very, very difficult challenge through the journey, but 4 and 5 is some sort of era, I would have thought.
Absolutely. Because,
even 3 and 4, Jim, before we even get to this one.
Yeah, exactly. So I think people are confusing it and they're bunching it all together and trying to be the first to claim this is the end of the... Who's the first to claim that this is the end of the Tiggies and the Tiggy train? It's come to a halt. Now, you go into... I'm just saying, going into next year, they'll have a lot of these players who have been banged up, injured, fresh, ready to go. So, and then hopefully you get Noah Bolter and a few other players back. You get full seasons out of certain players. Then also, you have a look at their draft hand, Rammer. For a side, a very good, well-established side, they've got 4 picks already inside the top 30.
Yep.
And then that's not even adding the fact that they'll probably lose one due to cap squeeze, whether it be one of the big boys, because they've got a host of ruckmen. And clubs traditionally overpay as far as draft hands to get ruckman. It becomes the big idiots market in free agency and trade.
Big idiots market, that's fantastic.
It does, doesn't it?
There's talk of Adam Chera potentially looking at the Tigers.
Yeah, so if they had another...
There's a reload.
Well, Damien Hardwick said as much after the game, talked about building on our brand, invest in some Generation Next kids and see how they go, and we'll change a few things up as well. So he's signalling the end of, certainly this season, Jim. He's almost writing this one off as a contender.
And then you add to the other factor, in the last couple of years, they've been absolutely brilliant. We say the midpoint of the year, the Tigers have always been around 50-50. But what it's done in the last couple of years, it's put 10, 20 games into players on their list. So you're going into next year, and they're not exposing players to their first games. There'll be a couple, but, Stack, Collier Dawkins, Coleman Jones, Ross.
Yep.
Graham comes in and plays a bit more midfield than being out on the periphery playing wing and half forward, those sort of roles. So I don't get this...
Nash, Ralph Smith, there's a few others coming through.
Exactly. I don't get this rush to put the line through the era. Like I can see the argument for this season because clearly their form and they just haven't been consistent enough, but I'll take 4 out of 5 as an era, wouldn't you?
So you'd look at the Cats as the greatest example of that. So they've started effectively in 2007 and they're still competing.
It's extraordinary list management what Geelong.
But that's what I'm getting at. So that's the art of it. A lot of the time you talk about Whitey and how clubs. There's not many, so I think Geelong definitely have been able to do it. I think Sydney to a lesser extent have been able to do it. They had a couple of little years there where they went back, but you look at their win yesterday. Now they're firmly entrenched now in the top 8. It is. It's that fine art of list management. How you're able to continually. Now, we say this. So Geelong have won the 3 premierships since 2007. But as a supporter, would you want to go into every season going, I know I'm going to be competitive every single game here. We're a chance to play prelim finals, play grand finals as they did last year.
It's easy to sell a membership if you know your team's going to win 70% of games.
Correct.
No, that's a good point.
I think the thing with Richmond, though, Jimmy, and it happened again yesterday, was they do look tired. Now, are they tired because of the injuries they've had to keep players throughout the season?
8 of their best players are not playing at the minute.
Or are the older players that have been so good and so consistent through the successful era, are they just cooked? So is it more than just this season? Is it because in the last quarter on the weekend, yesterday even, Collingwood had 57 more disposals.
Well, why is that different to Geelong, though? Why would that be different to Geelong?
See, I think you started the argument really well because you started about this season and then you merged it into...
No, but I'm saying that's what the commentary is around.
Yeah,
it's not just... I can separate the two because you see how many important players Richmond have had out, that they've never had a crack at it. Like in previous years, they had the injuries, but they all came back.
Yeah, true.
And had a go at it. Whereas this time round, they've gone out again, or another wave of really important players have got out. So I think it's been one of those seasons for them where you could actually say there's excuses.
You've got the injury list.
Well,
there,
those 8 players that I mentioned: Hawley, Edwards, Prestia, Vlosten, Nankervis, Lambert, Broad, Bolter. And you can add Soldo into that as well, who did his knee. And then Coleman Jones, he's looking like a real serious player. He's got a calf at the moment.
And see, and so the talk was, well, Cochin just couldn't do it. So even Dusty just couldn't do it in the last quarter.
Couldn't drag him over the line.
Jack tried hard but couldn't get them over the line.
They're 20 points up at three-quarter time.
Yeah, they were 29 points up in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
usually they choke the life out of you, the Tigers.
That's right.
In those situations.
Because they let the lead go against West Coast.
Yeah.
They let Essendon come back and then obviously got going again. So this has been coming for a while.
Yeah, which I'm highlighting the fact is, yes, this season, but can we just keep the arguments or conversations separate? That's probably the point I'm making. But the overrunning bit, and I reckon I've highlighted this nearly most games where sides get overrun, is if you give up twice as many uncontested marks, that's where you sap all your energy.
I want to talk about this Bulldogs Sydney game.
Yeah,
later.
so the Pies had 110 uncontested marks to the Tiggies 55. That's exactly twice as many for those playing at home. But what that does is it just expends energy. You spend a lot of energy running across the ground, just being the chaperone, as the man on the mark.
Yeah, you're pushing up for no reason.
Yeah, you just and the back 6 just do this 70, and even though it's three-quarter pace, 70 to 100 metre strides just across the ground the whole day.
The interesting thing about yesterday with Collingwood and Richmond was, for the second week in a row, it might have taken until the last quarter, but when Collingwood moved the ball quickly, how much more dangerous they looked as a team, but particularly the likes of Elliott and De Goey forward of the ball, when the ball was getting down there quickly.
I think 3 or 4 of their goals in the last quarter actually came from the last line of their defence, and they just moved the ball quickly. It was turn and go, turn and handball, turn and get the ball moving. It wasn't slow, sideways, inside, outside. And I think this is the major frustration with Collingwood now for a long period of time. Why is it evident to us when they move the ball as they do, they look like a great team?
Yeah.
But then to the coaching staff, it's this safety. It's a safety first mechanism.
Risk averse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
until they have to go and
until they have to
do it.
It's actually until they have to do your work early, Huff.
7 goals in the last quarter.
we were speaking about this last week while you were getting a mud wrap, Huff. The Collingwood,
Hot stones as well.
yeah, hot stones.
Actually, they were delicious. Yeah. They really felt nice in the middle of the
I was
bag.
about to say, you're not supposed to eat them.
Who says?
Collingwood defend too deep. But if you're going to choose to defend too deep, like that deep, you've got to then actually move the ball quicker on turnover. So you can't get trapped in your back 6. You either defend really high, which then you can possess the footy and play that time in forward half battle, or if you defend really deep, you got to go quick off turnover so you don't get trapped back there.
We like the Magpies last quarter. Taylor Adams inspired them. Brody Grundy was out of gas but kept pushing, and Pendlebury obviously stood up as well.
De Goey was good. Elliott was
JDG
good.
did a good job
Pendlebury,
too.
a couple of
Their
really
big guns stood up.
Yeah.
And Damien Hardwick mentioned him in the
Fab Five,
he called them the Fab Five. Yeah, that certainly was the difference in the end. But it's a pretty good performance from Collingwood.
It is.
Amazing what happens when your good players all play well at the same time.
It helps. It helps.
But that is what happened in the last quarter. Adams had 10, Pendlebury had 9, Grundy had 8, Maynard was exceptional.
Yeah.
He had 8. It was their good players played really well, and Richmond's good players didn't play really well in the last quarter. It changed the game significantly.
They were too good, the Magpies, yesterday. Jim, you were at Marvel Stadium. Let's move on to that game.
Sure.
This is a really interesting game.
Where do you
I
want to
reckon.
start, John?
Well,
fire your questions.
Let's start with the game.
Okay. That's a good place to start.
Sydney, too good. 19 points.
Makes sense.
I can accept that starting point.
19 points. Now, the Bulldogs had a chance to really distance themselves and lock in a top 2 spot with that game yesterday. But Sydney, who are ever improving, and by goodness, they used the ball well by foot, Jim, from what I saw yesterday. They kicked the ball with penetration and with precision, unlike a lot of teams in the competition. And they were way too good. They were outplayed, the Bulldogs.
Yep, outplayed. They got the game on their terms. They controlled the tempo and the speed of the game. They were in control of it, and that was the problem for the Dogs. They didn't generate any speed on the contest, which was their way to beat through the Swans' defence. Now, the Swans are always very well disciplined in their structure and the way they defend. So they use their direct opponent as their starting position and they take back shoulder, whereas a lot of sides who like to, at the moment, defend, and it's not saying one way is better or the other. Like we know Melbourne like to take a bit of space and intercept. West Coast always play the West Coast web where they take space and go see the footy. Sydney's style has always been use your direct opponent as the starting point. Again, twice as many uncontested marks, but they put on a clinic also on the contested marks as well. What they did really well is once Sydney got the turnover, their transitional running live was so impressive. Now, everyone will go, geez, Dawson kicked 3 goals, and it's going to sound boring because we like talking about the attacking style of footy. It was actually the defensive patterns that Dawson was running got him in a great position to get his goals. Because what he did was he pushed really hard to stop the release kick. So that's what the Swans did. As soon as the ball went forward for the Swans, all their halfbacks and their wings just got really high and cut out all the release kicks. That's why we very rarely saw a lot of Lockie Hunter and the midfielders getting that little switch kick or that kick up through the middle because they just closed it out. They just took the mark out. But then that actually put him in a really good position to attack. So the first few goals and shots on goal, Ollie Florent squared back up through the middle. He was actually running down there to stop the Dogs if they won the ball, coming back across the ground or through the middle. You have a look at Dawson's goals, as we touched. They were squared kicks back up in the middle or a handball chain, which brought him back through the middle of the ground. So transitional running was awesome. The Dogs looked a bit flat. They were a lot of walking and just putting their hands up, kick it long down the line. And when you don't have Norton down the line to kick to, it makes it a difficult day.
I think Sydney have gone from they've got some good young players now to they've got good players. And that, like you look yesterday, so you just the best players. And I know that's not the be all in it, but Dawson's a good player now. Jake Lloyd's won a couple of best and fairest. Cal Mills going into the midfield has been amazing. It's been amazing.
He's gone under the radar, Cal Mills.
And I think the difference in that, why I say he's been amazing in there, because he's got a defensive mindset, but he can go and find the ball.
Yeah.
And he can limit his direct opponent, whoever that may be.
He's very clever at being where the ball's going to go next.
Yeah.
But still with that defensive mindset. So, Rama and Jimmy, the question I've got for you about Sydney is why is it that at Marvel, because they always play well at Marvel, because I think they like to use the ball, they've got good skills, but why is it they can do it so well there particularly, and even at the MCG, but not at the SCG, where they're getting these grinds?
Oh, I think it's pretty simple. I think they're a ball moving.
So why can't they do that?
It's too hard. It's very hard to do that at the SCG. SCG, as small as it is, it's still about territory. You shift the ball from one zone to the other. Now you can do it a couple of times through ball speed, but it's easy to get back on the SCG. It's really easy to transition defensively. So that's why at Marvel, at the MCG, at the bigger grounds at the moment, you see him just flipping the ball around really quick.
It's the lanes, Jimmy. You did the game yesterday. Yeah. The way they changed the lanes was really evident.
Yeah, you can use the ball better at Marvel. Like, it's just conditions. Even with the lid not on top.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, you can still
see the city. It's beautiful.
You can still move the ball. It was windy there yesterday. It was blustery. But yeah, you look at their forward line. The Amati party takes a good contested mark, but they're all forwards who like movement. So like Buddy likes to get on the move. Hayward, Heaney, Papley likes movement. So whoever they put in that forward line, I think you can create space by moving. And as you said, they come out of their back line with their ball movement. And they can be patient, but they can build the speed up by coming around you as well.
Around the grounds for Adam Romanascus.
Around the grounds, we're going to penalties.
Oh, penalties at Wembley for the final. So
someone's
where are you kicking it?
Whatever happens, drama will ensue.
and there will be a villain.
There's always a villain.
There'll be a hero, but there will be a villain.
This is real. Is a Batistuta cross bar sort of stuff.
It's going to be a disaster somewhere.
Roberto Baggio.
Roberto Baggio.
I don't want to be critical on the Bulldogs because they've won a lot of games this year, but there's been a few games where when it's not played the way they want it played, they can't solve the riddle within the game.
the good teams can change quickly within games. They almost think their way through it, or they wait to quarter time, half time, and the coach is able to change things. Bulldogs don't look like they've got one style, and that's it at the minute.
But what would you have done different yesterday?
I think they've got to discover whether it's a personnel or a mechanism thing to change the tempo of the game. Now, it's not a big thing. That sounds like it's technical, but whether then you move certain players to get some run and rebound off half-back to create the overlap. So the instructions say being at three-quarter time, you would have liked to seen, all right, you can roll the dice a little bit more, guys from half-back, whether that be Bailey Dale or Caleb Daniel. Instead of you getting the ball deep in defence, we need some overlap run, because they've actually had to change the tempo of the game. Because that tempo of the game, the Swans own. So,
but were they capable of that? Because as you say, the Swans owned that, so they weren't giving that up.
No, they
from what I saw.
But they had to shift something in what they were doing. So whether that be a personnel thing, whether you bring a high half forward up into the stoppage, because the Swans, the way they sort of queue up and line out from stoppages, was setting them up. So whether that be just send a forward to the stoppage who just goes hard really forward early from the stoppage, because you've already got the cover there, and the Swans... Like you can run and put some pressure on the Swans, or you can actually create something different. I think that game reminded me of like how Collingwood beat Melbourne at the SCG. They just took the tempo of the game, and it's a thing for them to work on in the coming weeks. I'm not saying it's all bad for the Dogs, but they've just got to learn. They've either got to go from slow possession to fast quicker, or how they can put speed on the game with more handball going forward.
There wasn't a lot of overlap run.
No.
There wasn't a lot of flicking the ball around.
But
it just wasn't the normal Dogs.
But Dogs plus 20 in clearances, plus 6 in the contest. So the Dogs won that phase of the game.
It did, but it just didn't feel like the Dogs.
But this is what I'm getting at. You usually see the Dogs win the outside phase of the game easily.
Yeah.
And the Swans took that away. Took that away really smartly.
That's why I wanted them to change a bit of their structure, because they're doing well on the inside and the stoppages, but to better capitalise on those situations.
Sydney had 123 marks.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It
lot
looked
of them
like it
came
too.
in the first quarter.
So Collingwood had 122 yesterday. Sydney had 123. St Kilda had 129 on Saturday night.
Tempo's all yours.
Yeah, owning the game. The Suns in horrible conditions at 86. That was slightly different. Geelong had 108 in their win. Freo 96 in their win. Essendon had 112 in their win. Melbourne 88 was a bit of an anomaly against Port Adelaide on Thursday. They had 87. So if you're controlling the tempo, and it's the whole Geelong Chris Scott thing. I will hold the ball, we'll defend with it in hand, we'll set up accordingly, and we'll beat you eventually.
So is there a skill to that, guys, about what Half said, but actually still wanting to go forward and the intent to score as opposed to just holding onto the ball a la
that's Sydney.
what Adelaide tried to do? Because Sydney did it the right way.
Yeah, Geelong used to use the term fast possession. So you're still trying to move the ball forward and you're still trying to score, but you're still taking territory off the opposition. But it actually takes a lot of physical work. So where younger, immature sides fall into the trap is they think, we're going possession style. So if they don't have it, they just stand still.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what was really noticeable live was the work rate of Sydney. As soon as they won the ball back, so Harford wins the ball back at centre-half back, the immediate spread by Ramanask and White out to the boundary, like to the wings, it actually makes the ground really big. So you're actually asking the Dogs as a defensive group a lot of questions. You go, if you don't go with that one, we'll use it and we'll take the territory off you around the boundary. Eventually, we'll kick it inside 50 from 60 out. The square up kick. If you do go with it, well, the corridor and the 45's up. You can't have them all. So it's almost asking the question of the Dogs. You can't cover them all. And what we'll do is we expose the one or two who are, joining in the group defence.
The speed of your ball movement determines how you set up the ground. If you go ultra fast and you turn it over, you haven't got a chance to set up behind. So that's what the good teams are very, very good at. They know, okay, we can go ultra fast because we've got coverage. But if, like Essendon at the moment, they haven't got that mechanism where they go ultra fast, but they turn it over, they get scored against. Now, okay, Friday night was a lot different, but that's where Geelong is. You see them at times going fast, but they've still got their coverage back.
Around the grounds, Italy with the first kick in the penalty shootout. What happened, Rama?
Straight into the goal.
The left pocket.
Bottom left. 1-0 Italy.
Left corner pocket.
So based, Jimmy, on what you saw from Sydney, are they the real deal now, or is it still a bit too soon?
No, well, their season says they are. They've won.
But, I mean, they're out of that they're out of that top 3 or 4. But over the last 2 weeks, they have just been awesome.
Well,
Well,
only a game
actually-
out of fourth.
Yeah. I'll ask you a couple in that top 5. Have they come back?
Well, that's
them
what I'm
with
wanting
England?
to show. I'm not sure. That's a good question.
I'll hold that.
Thank you.
We'll
Appreciate
get to a break. And a bit of radio craft from you.
Scored.
Harry Kane.
Bottom
just
left pocket.
scored.
Harry
It was a bit
Kane.
higher. That was sort of left middle.
Well,
pocket.
after missing the penalty but scoring on the rebound the other day, that was a bit close.
One
England
apiece.
1-1, bottom left. 2 bottom left corners. We'll keep a track of where the balls are going in the penalty shootout between Italy and England. 1-1 the end of regulation, 1-1 the end of extra time, and currently sitting 1-1 in the penalty shootout. More with Jimmy after this.
The medical staff believe that it's an ACL injury, so that's unfortunate. It's the worst, so didn't seem like much of an incident, but it's our second ACL this year at this ground. Obviously, Cam Rayner had one earlier in the year, so that's a pretty savage blow to Eric and to the club at this point in the season. He's a really important player for us, so we'll have to lick our wounds on that one and try and find another tall key position forward. So it's an opportunity for a Connor Ballenden or a Tommy Fullerton to step up.
Chris Fagan there, coach of the Brisbane Lions. They were unsuccessful in trying to defeat St Kilda on Saturday night. They were way too good, the Saints. 32 points, in fact. They were dominant. Their pressure across the ground was magnificent and was the difference in the end. Update around the grounds, Rama.
Or Italy now take the lead in the penalty shootout. So 3-2, but obviously with one to come still for England.
So both teams have missed.
Yeah, both teams have missed now.
Missed one. Rashford missing for England in their third attempt to get a 3-2 lead. Couldn't do it. And now the Italians have scored to square it up. No, sorry, they've taken the lead.
They've taken the lead, 3-2.
Saves
3-2.
this, it's over.
So it's on this. It's on this. Is that right?
Is it?
What did you say?
No,
No, he's still got to score.
no,
Still got to
sorry.
score.
Yeah, the
No,
next
well,
one.
I'm gonna say it's
Who's
over.
up for England?
Sancho.
Oh, no, Sancho. Chris Fagan there was talking about Eric Hipwood. Jim, ACL for him. A big challenge now for the Brisbane Lions. They couldn't counter it on Saturday night.
Saved.
England saved penalty by the Italians.
So if the
Italians
Italian guy
score,
scores,
it's
yeah.
over.
Gustavo.
Oh, boy.
Just
Sancho.
he's gone right. That's a terrific save by the Italian goalkeeper.
Oh, boy. Good save. Just didn't get enough on it from our man Sancho. And hearts are in mouths across the globe at the moment. Who's our man for Italy? We might as well stay with this while we got it. Well, this is top drama across the globe. We've got Italy stepping up to the spot to win the Euro 2020 final.
Where are you going? You're the keeper.
I'm going
middle.
I'm going top
empowering
right.
it.
I'm going top right.
Whitey.
I'm going middle.
Oh, you're going to drill it
Because
straight down
he'll-
Main Street.
The goalkeeper's got to go one way, just straight down the middle.
Yeah.
Hit his feet for a save.
Jorginho
Jorginho.
is the man at the spot for Italy to take the title.
Best Martin Tyler here, please, Huff.
Well, I can't. I'm on delay, so I need you blokes to do it. Actually, I'm going to screen this about 4 seconds behind. I need.
Oh, he saved it.
Saved it!
Oh, it's,
Oh, he's duffed
that is
it.
unbelievable.
He couldn't have kicked it any slower.
He's got a hand to it, and it's hit the post, and it's come
It almost went back
Back
in
in.
off the ricochet off the goalkeeper.
Oh boy! Oh boy!
It's like he left his birdie putt short.
It was
a good
all. It was
save.
all on the line. And Pickford, is it Pickford?
Yep.
The goalkeeper for England. He's been able to get a fingertip on it, push it into the post. It did nearly ricochet back in.
So that guy had the chance to be the absolute hero of Italy.
Talk about him.
His moment of life.
They would have talked about him forever.
Couldn't
They would
miss
have built
3 in a row.
statues about him.
Couldn't miss 3 in a row, could they?
All right, Rama. Who's up? Who's up for
Oh,
England?
no, they have.
What's happened?
They've missed 3 in a row.
3 in a row.
It's all over.
It's over.
Another save by Italy. Saka
Saka.
was the man
Yeah.
at the spot. He went middle right, didn't work, and Italy are the kings of Europe. Pandemonium will ensue. It's coming Rome. It's coming Rome, says the Italian fans. Lygon Street will be going off its chops. In fact, we'll probably see
You'll
some.
be able to see the flares.
We'll probably see some
out
flares
there.
and fireworks. From
Why is it
from
orange
here.
out the front of you? The window there, Huff.
Italy are winners of the Euro 2020 in a dramatic penalty shootout. Absolute heartbreak for England fans and the players that have missed the penalty shootouts. They're inconsolable at the moment.
They went the older players first, England, with their penalties scored, then they went the younger ones.
Their best moment, their best chance for a long, long time.
The last penalty actually wasn't a bad attempt. The goalkeeper
gets right, yeah.
Like, it wasn't as though it was a fluffed
Got to
kick.
go top right, I'm telling you. They keep going bottom right, middle right. Go top.
It's got to go power.
Go top. Get the job done. Or get Kevin Muscat to the spot. He would have nailed it. Don't worry about that. Righto.
You want to talk Brisbane?
Let's talk Brisbane.
Eric
Hipwood, the impact that's going to have, Jim. They've had a little three-pronged attack up there with he and Joe and Charlie. He goes down. Joe wasn't involved. Charlie disappeared on Saturday night, and they were nowhere near it, the Brisbane Lions. That's why I said before about Sydney. They're a game off out of fourth, and I'm not convinced Brisbane will be going gangbusters in the back end of the season, who currently hold fourth. Port Adelaide, Sydney, in between Brisbane and Sydney on 44 points, 11 wins. Sydney are on 10 wins. I think Sydney are in it up to their eyeballs to be a top 4 team.
Yep, because the others, like as you're saying there, but Hipwood, 26 goals this season, so he would have been that 40 to 50 goal kicker, which when you have a really deep run, Rama, you have your two players around 40 to 50 goals, and then you get a host, 20. You hope a couple of midfielders hit over 20, and that's your sort of your premiership makeup from your forward line. But it's been a good touch, Hipwood, and I think his improvement. I think we've missed a little bit this year because of everything else going on in Brisbane. His contested marking's really improved. I think we thought a lot of Big Eric just being a really tall half-forward flanker. But what he's done really well this year is he's identified his matchup, how he can beat his matchup. And that's what I've really enjoyed about his improvement, Hipwood, is you put a small on me to sort of run and be agile enough, he gets deep on them and he marks the ball better overhead. You put a big cumbersome player on him, he then starts to get on the move and they open up the forward line. And I think they started to gel, that dynamics of Danaher playing ruck, coming forward, and obviously Charlie Cameron going back and taking the goal square. So it's on Joe, isn't it? It's
Well,
they've got to find another banana.
I think it's McStay.
McStay's the one who's got to step up.
But McStay is. I think he is what he is. You know what I mean.
But he's got to. So Cameron's could kick 30 goals. Joe 27. Hipwood 26. Obviously gone now. Bailey 22. Link McCarthy 21. Then McStay 14.
But I think Joe's got to come up a level. Whereas I think McStay, I haven't seen enough from McStay to show that he can be better than what he is.
I agree with you on that.
But they're going to have to. This is the thing. He's going to have to be.
Going to have to be.
Otherwise, it's over.
But I don't think that's an answer. Sorry,
I don't think keep him closer to goal.
Yeah, but I don't think that's an answer because
So what else are they going to do?
I've seen Joe be better, so that's what I'm going on. What I know.
But even he's better, they're going to need something else. They're going to need another angle of attack, aren't they?
Yeah, but my point is the difference needs to be made up from Joe and Charlie. Like, I think McStay will just stay about the same. I think there needs to be
McStay about the same, is what you just said?
Yeah.
Nice work.
Yeah, so appreciate it. But he's got a McStay. He can't have a drop-off because he's going to assume, or we're going to assume he's going to get a better defender with the knockdown of Hipwood going out.
Or the focus goes, but they start to double team Joe or double team Charlie and take away that threat. So this is why I think they've got to find something else or somebody else to come in and have a serious impact. Otherwise, it's just about curtains.
It smacked to me of a team that was not a loss they had to have. They've only lost twice since round 4. And that was to Melbourne and then obviously Saturday night. They just were off their tucker.
Yeah.
And St Kilda were really good.
They fantastic.
They were really, really good. They soundly beat Brisbane. And you kind of felt at some point the Lions would flick the switch and it looked like it was going to happen there. But it looked like it was going to happen there for a moment where they got themselves going again and then straight away St Kilda went, no. I just thought it was a really complete performance from St Kilda.
It was. It was the best performance I've seen from them for a long time.
Cam Rayner is going really well with his rehab. He, I think, wants to play. Chris Fagan has said no.
You wouldn't be banking on him to be the difference coming off a Rico straight up, would you?
No.
It's another option playing forward.
Yeah, well, it's an option.
You couldn't risk the young man's career.
You couldn't expect him to come in and have the impact that you'd need from or want from.
Because if he hurts himself again, it's 2 years out of football.
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't think they do that.
They were lucky they didn't get beaten by more.
Yeah, that's right. Now, St Kilda are fantastic.
Luke Dunstan and Jack Steele were unbelievable.
Dunstan did a great job on lines at the contest. Stopped him from getting the
Where's
clearances.
Luke Dunstan been?
Well, I said this to Brett Ratton. I spoke to him yesterday. I said, did you lose his magnet? Like, is that the only reason he wasn't playing? Did you just not have his magnet on the board somewhere and you just couldn't play him? Because he's been remarkable. He's getting a heap of the footy, shutting down opposition mids at the source, which is what he did on Saturday night with Jared Lyons. He kept him to 2 clearances, had 10 himself, I think it was, or 8 himself. He's been phenomenal. Then you got Jack Steele evolving into this magnificent machine through the middle of the ground.
14 disposals and, was it 2 goals in the last quarter
yeah.
alone?
Steele's added goal scoring and inside forward 50s to his craft, which is taking to another level. But I think with Dunstan, I think they now focus on what he can do. I think a lot of the knock on Dunstan while he was out of the side was, well, he can't spread from stoppages and he's not this and he's not that. And then you add it to the fact that they had Steele, Ross, the whole knock on St Kilda was the sameness in the midfield.
Yeah.
And Dunstan, unfortunately, was the one, well, the other two are already in. You're the one that we want to change the sameness up with somebody else. But now they've just gone, you know what he's really good at? He's just winning the contest.
He wins the contest, and he stops the main opponents winning the contest. That's what he does. And then you got this back line that's emerging too. Howard is the linchpin of it. Hasn't been as good in the last 8 weeks as he was in the first 8 weeks, I reckon. But then you got Sinclair's really evolved. Highmore's a serious.
Wish he was called Hightower, like from Police Academy. I wish he was Hightower.
He's a really good player. Jimmy Webster did a hell of a job on Charlie.
He was super.
On Saturday night. The back half is going okay. Brad Hill's got some run and drive from it. Wilkie's again.
Just very, very quickly on St Kilda, they've conceded only 18 goals in their last 3 weeks.
Yeah, and they're going to need to continue to do that. Port Adelaide, West Coast, Carlton, Sydney, Geelong. Next 5.
The improvement in their back 6 has been the small defender. Because I've said this a few times. Patton was a big loss when Ruffy crushed him at training. But Patton was a very, very good player. He was the one you just went, he's getting picked. There's the best opposition small forward. Can you go put him to sleep?
Yeah.
To have those players in your team, you don't realise how much you miss them until they're gone.
Well, Jimmy's doing a bit of a job for the Saints now. Yeah. They're going beautifully. They are going beautifully. And Max put on a good show too for the forward fans of St Kilda. They were very, very good. One of the performances, if not the performance of the round, I reckon, the Saints. We'll get to the news. Sarah Patterson's got the latest with us. I'm sure there'll be some mention of Italy defeating England in the Euro 2020 final in a dramatic penalty shootout, as they always are. There's never been a non-dramatic penalty shootout.
As a spectator, I mean, when I watch footy Thursday, Friday night, the game's way too long. But I don't really get a say in that. But the shorter games do allow you to play off shorter breaks. And 5-day breaks with the game time and the longer seasons mean, at least for us, that it would be unsustainable to play the same 22 every week. And if that's what we have to do, then so be it. But I don't think it's best for the game. I think you want the best players out there as much as possible. And I think we want some... I certainly like it when there's heat on the game and it's punchy rather than drawn out, because there's nothing the rule makers can do to stop the coaches controlling the tempo of the game. We'll win that one every time.
We'll win that battle, says Chris Scott as the coach. They'll manipulate it to suit if they see fit. So the game is way too long, the Geelong coach has said, after their win over the Blues at the MCG on Saturday. It was 26-point margin, Whitey.
I don't think that that comment will go down particularly well with fans, that last comment.
About the coaches will just own the game and do what they want. Yep.
He's not wrong, though.
But that's not. That's right. That's not wrong. It's not wrong. Anyone who's watched
reality.
It's in the last couple of years understands that that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, it's reality. Yeah. But the football has not been very good in recent times. You could probably go back 3 or 4 years unless you're a Richmond fan. But just as a, and we've talked about it a lot about it aesthetically. But it seems to have gone backwards in the last month or so.
Would that improve with shorter quarters, to Chris's point?
Well, it proved that it didn't, because the way that you could defend, it was easier to defend when the players weren't as tired.
So we had better contests, do you think, last season? You had more teams were in games longer with shorter quarters? I'm not a fan, just by the way. It's a survival of the fittest Australian rules football, and it should be, as it was, 20-minute quarters plus time if you want to do that. And if you last, you last. And Chris Scott also said, we want to see the best players out there for as long as possible. Well, longer game time or normal game time gives us that chance. But did we get more contests last year on the back of the 16 quarters?
I'll answer it this way. I don't think there's been as many blowouts this year as I think we all thought there would be at the start of the year. I mean, that way that game opened up in the last quarter yesterday between Collingwood and Richmond was kind of what Steve Hocking wanted. The players were tired and the game really opened up and the best players came to the fore from a Collingwood perspective. I don't know. I don't like the idea of shorter quarters based on what I saw last year and the way that teams could essentially be shut out of quarters where they just didn't score. It made
Not
it
for
easy
me.
to defend.
No,
Not for me.
I'm stick with what we've got.
It's one of the beauties of the game.
Yeah, I
Survival
agree.
of the fittest.
Yeah.
The best survives and wins.
You want to, you almost enjoy seeing a player completely gassed at the end of the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the challenge.
Taylor Adams was heroic yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, he was absolutely out on his feet. But there's a lot of text messages coming through, not particularly favourable towards Chris Scott.
That tends to be the common theme, though, doesn't it?
Well, he's still the winner, sitting third on the table at the moment with 12, equals second behind the Bulldogs on percentage at the moment. They had their win, although it was a bit nerve-wracking, I imagine, at times for Cats fans, considering the...
Really? No.
Well, it must have been, like...
No, Carlton will
Carlton
give-
had a lot of the footy in the first half.
They'll give it back to us.
Yeah.
They had a lot of shots.
That's right.
Yeah, they'll
But
give it
they-
back to us.
That's
Didn't
the
they have
game.
4 or 5 more
But that's
shots
the
on
game.
that?
That's
They'll
the
give it back.
game right
They
there.
didn't have 4 or 5 more shots. Is that what you're saying?
They get sucked into this whole...
Hang on a
Carlton,
second.
Let's go to a press conference and excuse another performance.
Hang on a second. Did they or
all
did
of
they
it.
not? It did they or
They
did they not?
butchered it, the
Nah,
boys.
Have 4 or
Nah.
5 more shots in the
Butchered
first half.
That is clearly picking up the paper and going, 4 or 5 more shots, we were a chance.
No, I'm...
You weren't a
You're
chance.
such a condescending Geelong
I'm
turd,
the-
you are. That's what you are.
I'm deliberately being condescending.
You are Geelong all the
Absolute-
way. You
Absolutely.
Geelong turds, mate. I've had enough.
Absolutely. I got out with my cat's pajamas and
You
I've got my
would've.
beanie on right now.
You
'cause
would have.
because that's clearly how everybody in the football world viewed the performance.
So are Geelong going well enough to be contending for the flag? Do you think they're a flag contender still?
yeah, but they're not playing well enough.
Well, there you go. So all of a sudden,
No,
we get
but
back
I
to where
just
it was.
answered the question. Yes, they are still flag
But they're
contenders.
not playing well enough.
No, I think we agreed. They still haven't clicked into full gear. I don't think they're set on their lineup. Of course, injuries have played a factor. You had Selwood back into that. Does Cameron get back? Does Duncan get back?
Cameron gets back.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
but that's not a guarantee. He's done 3 hammies in the space
Yeah.
of 12 months.
Well, there's still 6 weeks to go. Then plus a bye, so there's 7 weeks.
I reckon they'll be
Who is a good team? Because
Melbourne.
This is the thing is
Melbourne
that
are
we
a good
can,
team.
yeah,
Melbourne are a good
but
team.
it is interesting, isn't it? Because we
Bulldogs
can kind
are a
of
good
pick
team.
holes
Yeah.
in all the teams.
Geelong are a good team.
But you've always been able to. Have there been too many teams of recent years where you couldn't find holes?
I reckon over the past 15 years, when Geelong was really good, Hawthorn was really good, and Richmond was really good, you could rely on them. I'm not sure there's a team where you can be absolutely guaranteed that they'll win today.
So if you were to stake your life on a team,
Yeah, this is a good
this-
question.
Great question, Daniel.
this season, that's what I do.
Good day,
I've
Spars.
refreshed
Doesn't
after
count,
2
though.
weeks.
Yeah, good day, Spars.
Who is that team? Rammer, open to you.
Good question.
This is sort of another way you asked it. Who's our premiership favourite the other day? And we all went in different teams.
No, but it's. I think it's a different question. It's based on.
So who's winning
To
the whole
stake-
thing?
No.
Stake your life on a game.
On a game,
Today-
on a single
on a-
game.
on a
single
team.
game on a
like
team.
today,
Yeah.
like this moment.
Today.
While Lygon Street's on fire with flares
Yes.
right now.
Well, Lygon Street is ablaze.
Oh, Blaze, good word, yes. That's
I can't choose the Italians.
No,
The Cats.
the Cats. Okay,
Yeah, the Cats.
interesting. Jim?
Cats.
No, Pajama Boy.
Can I explain why so then you
Yeah.
don't call me Pajama Boy?
You called yourself Pajama Boy.
You did call you.
Well, you were sort of sending me down that path. I just put the jammies on. I think the difference between the Cats, good and bad, is smaller than those other teams at the moment.
The Cats can change tempos in the game, where I don't think others necessarily can yet.
I know, Whitey.
I trust the Cats more than any other team, but I'd do it and be really emotional watching them.
And I'm
Because
the
I
one with
know that
pajamas on.
I want them to be playing differently to what
Yes.
they'll play, but I'll still trust their experience over everybody else.
What about you, Dayspar?
No, I'm on the D's. I think they've got it. I reckon they're my boys this year.
What can I ask?
They're my
Well,
boys.
I'm not challenging you, but I just why is you?
I think
why is your
the
flag?
brand of their physical contest brand is really strong. They've got key posts at either end that do the job for them. I think they've got the makeup of a premiership winning team in September when it's all the whips are cracking. That's the makeup that you want in September. I know Geelong got the experience and all that sort of stuff, but I think Melbourne have the makeup structurally and now the mindset of being a premiership
Good
team.
argument. Oh.
I agree with you. If it wasn't Melbourne, I'd agree with you even more.
Yeah,
You know what
I get
And
that. I
that's
get
the
that.
thing. That's the thing.
I get that. Like, history says Geelong would be favoured because of their history, because of their experience.
But we're
at the
still
levels.
waiting for Geelong to be the team we all think that we've seen glimpses against Richmond, but that doesn't count for as much now, I don't think.
Yep.
West Coast probably doesn't count for it. They were the two reference games with Geelong when we thought, oh, here we go. But we're still waiting. There's still time.
Tony's in Geelong, just by the way. Hello, Tone.
Bulldogs.
Hey, Daniel, good to see you back, mate.
Nice to be back.
And now, listen, with Chris Scott, I don't know if he knows how the time thing works. I've been roped into time with senior footy this year. When the play stops, the clock stops, right? So if you want to shorten the game, when there's a goal kick, don't have a minute between the goal umpire signaling and balling the ball up. Take it back to 30 seconds. And if you get rid of the nominating of ruckman and you just throw the ball up, you could probably take it between 10 to 15 minutes off the game.
Yep, good call, Tony.
And then give them back their interchange to 100 so they can rotate their players through because the ball is obviously going to be moving more. But to say to shorten the game is going to be better for the game, no, it's not.
Well,
good. Love it.
Nice work,
I think
Tone.
If we had a prize, we'd give one to you, Tony.
Nice work,
Right.
Tone.
It's 45 seconds between goal. Now, that's for TV, obviously,
Yeah,
to
that's
get
TV, yeah.
whatever. I completely agree with the ruck.
That includes boundary throw-ins as well.
Just throw it up
waiting
or
for the
throw it
ruckman
in.
to come from 400 metres away.
But how hard is it to count one person from each team? Just say there's only allowed one up from the ruck. If there's 3 people jumping from the ruck, clearly one team's got too many.
Do you think that's actually made any difference at all anyway by having...
No.
When the boundary umpire's ready to throw it in, he throws it in. When the umpire gets the ball off the players, throw it straight up. Actually, don't allow there to be structure around a contest.
Take your time. 0 new cases in Victoria today. Good feedback. Another donut day for
Donuts.
for Victoria. Giants quickly. Jim went down to by a point at Ballarat yesterday. The Gold Coast Suns. A disappointing day at the office.
Yeah, probably reflective of their season. I think I've said this before. No, it's
He's getting angry now. This is angry Jim coming. We've had pajama Jim. Now we're going into angry Jim here.
I could nearly fill out like a boy band with different.
You would have banked that one.
There's a few this year you would have banked, and I think that's what I'm saying. It was reflective of the season. And I think I've used the term before. They've been consistently inconsistent.
You'd have been 7th had you won that game.
Yeah, and you ever look at
Well, while you're getting the pay,
No,
I want to come in across
can
here.
I just say
Third
something
man to
here?
the contest.
No, I wanted the latter.
Oh,
Well, we know that.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. That just to your point, half banking. Drew against 18th, lost to 17th, lost to a Gold Coast?
15th, 13th, 14th.
14th.
So they're underperforming.
That's it. Well, but then you beat the top side.
So just on the something happened yesterday, which I think needs to be celebrated because it happens a lot and it annoys the hell out of me. Stuart Dew was prepared to take a player off and play 17v18
It was a good
to be
move.
able to get Tuke Miller onto the field because he was caught on the bench. Too often, good players at really important times in games are stuck on the bench for 7 or 8 minutes, and the answer from the coach is, we can't do anything about it. Well, Stuart Dew proved you actually could.
Yep.
And Kelly was off at the same time that Miller was off, and Kelly was having a really good part. He was really helping the Giants stay in the game, be in front in the game, and when he went off, the Giants lost ascendancy around the ball.
So for people who are unaware, the Ballarat, the far side of the ground, because it was blowing an absolute gale to the far side, Miller came off for midpoint of the quarter, but the game got stuck for 10 minutes out there.
And it's happening a fair bit.
So Stuart Dew, yelled out, got a forward to quickly come off, got Miller onto the ball, and then he actually had the next clearance.
Yeah.
So it actually affected the game.
But it has to happen more. You can't, I just can't have it that good players can get stuck on the bench just because it's on the far side of the ground. They can't get their rotations happening. Just
You said it was 17v18. That was still 18v18.
Well,
You're not losing
in
any
a
players.
sense, they took a player out of their structure to
different
get
zone.
them off
Yeah.
the ground, as opposed to waiting for a
Yeah,
stoppage
yeah,
or for a
yeah.
goal.
Sorry.
So
I was a
it's
bit confused.
that's how he was able to do it. But it proves it can be done. So having these situations, and it happened in the St Kilda Adelaide game where Jack Steele was off the ground for far too long.
Yep.
And it's because it got caught on the far side of the ground. They've got to find better ways
You know
to make
why?
sure their better players are on the ground more often.
Because they're computer-generated rotations,
Yeah.
right? If a forward comes off for Miller, the system will blow
That's
up.
right,
It will blow up.
exactly.
Melbourne Cup emergency system
Like,
doesn't quite work.
it happened with.
Oh no! What's
it
happened?
happened with Jack.
Now my system's ruined. I can't do this. I
but
can't
it happened
do that.
with Jack McRae yesterday. He was on the bench for a long time, and the Bulldogs needed him out on the ground. And I reckon it was about 10 minutes he was off.
I used to deliberately swap to the far wing when I knew it was roughly on. I get stuck, and then Monday you'd have the sports science dorks going, "Oh, you played a 15-minute patch." I went, "So."
Well done to the Gold Coast. A great win by them in tricky conditions at Ballarat yesterday. Fremantle, the only team to kick 100 points in their win over Hawthorn, who were very, very disappointing. And Friday night, of course, it was a real fizzer. Essendon putting a bit of a stamp on the Adelaide Crows to wrap up round 17. One game still to come tonight, West Coast and North Melbourne. Who are you tipping? Anyone tipping the Kangaroos, North Melbourne?
We don't talk about
I'd
the mighty
really
fighting
like North
anymore.
Melbourne to win tomorrow.
Well, no, not really, because we've got to go to the break.
You sure?
No.
2 minutes.
We talk more about Fremantle, because they're in the 8.
I know you like the mighty fighting though.
They're in the 8, the Fremantle Dockers. Justin
oh,
Longmuir is doing a hell of a job with those boys. A great win by them down in Tassie. We'll get to a break. Danny Weidler's going to join us, talk some